Hello all, this is Dan Brock, Principal at Branchbird, offering you our first in a series of what will be screencasts around the Endeca Extensions for eBusiness Suite. I had every intention to follow up on the series I began a few months back around our Branchbird's unique perspective on the offering, but every time I sat down to write a new post, I couldn't help but think how much better it might be to simply show the integration rather than write about it. So months later, here we are. I spent some cycles installing the EBS Simple Vision instance on my laptop, along with the Endeca Extensions, to enable a video series that show you the moving parts of the integration rather than writing about it. In this first post, or screencast, I want to simply showcase the simplicity of the integration, give you a sense of the topology, what the moving parts are. This integration that I was lucky enough to help the EBS development team design in my tenure at Oracle prior to Branchbird. So you can see from the slide in front of you really how simple the integration is. And it's a very high level, and every EBS implementation has its complexities, but you can simply see that this is fairly non-intrusive. We're introducing a new appliance, if you will, that houses the Endeca product. And in this case, and certainly on my laptop, I have one Linux server taking the shape of that appliance. Now, in the real world, this could certainly be across the spectrum. It could be an Linux machine. It could be meeting high availability requirements and be a load balance server tier. But it could also be as simple as a Linux box, a VM in this case, and even at your enterprise deployment. And it fits alongside as a second app here, if you will, to your existing EBS application here. Periodically, it ingests data from views that have been established as a part of installing the Endeca extensions. And those views offer the Endeca server all the data they need to facilitate the information access that the offering promises. So if we actually look a little bit closer at this appliance, you can see, like I mentioned, we're actually offering all three tiers installed on this. I continue to call appliance, but again, in my case, it's just a VM. That includes the ingest tier called integrator. As the data tier, it also offers the Endeca server, and we also have Studio running, which is the front end, and that can run on WebLogic, can also run on Tomcat, which out of the box, and in the most straightforward case, that is the way it is installed. This slide actually tries to illustrate is that for the product families within EBS, an offering has been built for, we actually have carved out something on each tier of the Endeca product. On the Studio tier, again, the front end, we've built what's called a quote-unquote community. Within the Endeca server, there's a dedicated data domain, and there's a specific ingest graph or ingest stream, if you will, for each product family that this offering is currently catering to. So I quickly threw together the slide with 4 applications, Endeca applications side by side, one for iProcurement, one for EAM, Enterprise Asset Management, and one for HCM, Human Capital Management. And then in gray, I kind of have an undetermined 4th application just to illustrate that obviously this is going to continue as we choose to add more and more of these offerings into our installation. I'll get back to the 3 tiers here. We have an EBS application tier, an EBS database tier, and our Endeca server, or our Endeca tier. And if you actually look here on my Oracle VirtualBox Manager, I actually have 3 of those running. I have a VM running for the database, a VM running for the EBS application tier, and I have an Endeca running here called OEID for EBS. So again, just to take a little bit closer look at these VMs, really there's nothing really special to it. It has the expected installation here for the EBS application tier. Everything you would expect is here installed under EBS, under the U01 mount. Same can be said for the database tier. Again, everything installed under U01 mount. Very vanilla installation of the EBS vision data. And last but not least, my Endeca server, which, as you might expect by now, has everything with the Endeca product installed under the U01 mount within the Oracle Endeca directory. So that's just a real high level of how this all fits together, and I can actually take my browser and point at a couple things here. Starting at the EBS home screen, I can log into the operations user and just prove out that I actually have this running locally. You pick any number of the product families that I have installed. Starting with iProcurement, like the new iProcurement homepage that this offering brings to bear, giving me the ability to dice the products in my local catalog by any of the attribution I find interesting. To show another, we also have field service. All I've really done with the installation of my EBS extensions is for certain responsibilities on certain menus. I basically created new pages that use what's called a rich content container. And that rich content container really serves iframe by which to wrap the studio pages that you see here. So if I actually drew a box around it, you actually see all this content in the middle is being served across the same web tier, but from 2 different application servers. So both application tiers are in play for both EBS and Endeca. So this is the Endeca Studio page. And I could actually show you a little bit more of how this plays out by pointing my browser directly to it. There's a redirect configured within the mod proxy setup within the EBS application tier that points anything that's /Endeca. In my case, it's EBS app branchbird.com, port 8042/Endeca, which redirects to the Endeca Studio page. But you can see that it's not done by passing through the right security information. The Endeca Studio tier will not return any data as part of the security integration. But for those who understand how this is brought together, you can see that you can actually get through the URL through the browser to the Endeca pages directly, although cannot see the content. One other thing to show here is I can also point my browser at something on the Endeca server called Integrator. So this is the Integrator server administration console. And once logged in, I could actually see what this calls its sandboxes, which these are the different projects by which we can ingest data out of the EBS database. So we were looking at iProcurement data. I can actually go in and look specifically at the graph files or the workstream definitions for pulling data out of the EBS database specific to iProcurement and loading it into my Endeca server. Integrator also comes with a designer, which is built on top of Eclipse, You can actually see that here. I can actually impact the design or configuration of those ingest streams using Integrator Designer. And I can actually point specifically at those server projects, which I've done here. And in future posts, I will actually go into more detail about the integration specifics of Integrator, call out a little bit more about the UI integration. We'll probably spend some time specifically on the security integration, and also maybe a screencast dedicated to configuration changes. Once you have this deployed out of the box, you might want to introduce things like new fields, introducing things like search tuning, things that might improve the user experience in terms of how the front end is laid out that could maximize your value on this offering. With that, I'll conclude today's screencast, introducing what I have running here, the overall topology, and look forward to discussing more of the details with you in future screencasts. Thank you very much.